Assalamu alaikum. So now everybody's saying Eid Mubarak, Eid Mubarak, Eid Mubarak. Eid, what does this word come from? We know Mubarak means blessing, but Eid comes from Ada Yaud, which means to return. Okay, and it's called Eid because it comes every year. It returns every year, right? That's why it's called Eid. Yeah? So you have Eid al-Fitr, which is after Ramadan, and then you have Eid al-Adha, which is during the time of Hajj, the time of pilgrimage, right? The month of pilgrimage. So it's because it returns, right? Ada ya'udu means to return. So auda, which is the verbal noun that comes from that, is the returning, right? So you have dhahab wa auda, right? This is a return, like a return ticket, right? Dhahab wa auda, right? So dhahab going and then auda to come back. From it as well, you have aud. Aud, we all know aud is the fragrance that you smell, right? And if you've seen oud before in its so to speak natural form, it's a piece of wood, right? It's a piece of wood. It's like chips of wood, right? You have the oud, which is a stick in general. Oud is a stick, some kind of khashaba, right? You lean on when you're walking, right? If you got problems with your legs or what have you, right? And you go back and forth, you return to that stick, to relying on that stick every time you walk, right? So one time, one step on the leg that's working properly, that's functioning properly, and then one time on the stick, and then you kind of rock back and forth, right? So you go back and forth. From it as well, you also have Ayadatul Marid, right? This is visiting the sick, right? And it's called Ayada, coming from this word as well, Aada Ya'udu, because you constantly go back and forth to him, right? When somebody is sick, you don't stay with that person until they get better. Usually you leave them for some time because they got to rest or what have you, and then you come back, and then you leave, and then you come back, and you leave, and then you come back until the person is done. So you go back and forth. So it's called that Ayadatul Marid, right? And then you have obviously the Ayada of the doctor as well, right? The clinic, right? You go back. That's where that happens usually, right? At least in our day and time, right? From it as well, you have adat wa taqalid, right? You have the traditions, right? The adat are the traditions, the customs that we constantly go back to. We're always going back to whether it's wearing a certain piece of clothes or talking a certain way or doing certain things a certain day or whatever, right? The adat wa taqalid, traditions that are going to continually go back to. People don't leave, right? From it as well, you have ta'awud, which is to become accustomed to something, right? We're kind of related to this, the habits or the traditions, right? Ta'awad ala shay, right? He becomes used to something, accustomed to something. All of that comes from Ada Ya'udu, right? And Eid comes from that as well.